Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Marvel Snapcast. I'm your host Ken, here with your other host Loot Muncher. How you doing, Loot?
I'm doing good.
All right. Val is out this week. He will be back next week, so just look forward for him. Now, we do have a special guest on today. We have a lot to talk about, from the new card in Marvel Snap all the way to whatever patch. You know what? Let's just bring on our guest. All right. Welcome in to Marvel Snapcast. We have RidiculousHat. Welcome. How are you, my friend?
Doing all right. How are you? Thanks so much for having me on a week when we have a lot to cover. A
I'm
lot.
sure. Yes, it's
Yes.
been a amazing week and amazing day as it's being recorded. So yeah, we're gonna dive right into it. No time to waste on this episode. So we'll start off with the new card that has been released today. It is the Negasonic Teenager or Teenager. Sorry, Negasonic Teenage Warhead. Get that right. All right. So as you guys can see, this card is after any card is played here, destroy this card and that card. It is a pool five. Um, Very cool art. Have another awesome variant here. What do you guys think about this card?
So this is I don't know how many times it's been said in the show and in general. I would love to try this card. It is not worth 6,000 tokens to try it. But I would love to try it. I've seen some cool lists going around, like Safety Blade had one of his creations of a Sarah Negasonic list that looks kind of fun. Because you're proactively controlling a lane, and it gets around Cosmo, which I think is really nice right now. But Kitty Pride comes out next week, and so I'm gonna buy Kitty Pride, and I'm not gonna buy this. But I'm not sure where Negasonic's gonna land. A lot of people were trying it today in various shells, and I'm not sure it goes in the Destroy deck. I'm not sure it goes in Galactus, but I could easily see some kind of get ahead Sarah deck that uses this and New Arrow to try and control turn 6 as much as you can.
Yeah, and I was lucky enough. I agree with you. I wouldn't spend 6,000 tokens on this, but I had some caches saved up and was lucky enough to actually pull this. This is my first Series 5 card that I've pulled from the cash boxes. So I have played a couple games with it. I did try actually Safety Blades, Sarah list. Um, a very good list so far that I've seen. The controlling the board, I really do like that. Another thing I've been trying with is kind of like this control list. I've been messing around for a little while with Doctor Doom and Storm and Professor X, and I like it in that shell too, because I can play it, lock it down. So I'm gonna play Storm turn 3, play Negasonic on turn 4, and then so if I have priority, whatever they try to play into the storm lane gets destroyed. Also, it's just good in general to if you can shut down lanes, because then it's less guessing. Oh, I also run Daredevil in that deck. I think Daredevil is a very good combo. Also, if you know where they're playing, you can just pop something that you need to pop.
I totally get that. I mean, I have it in my shop. I haven't purchased it yet. I do have some caches that I want to open. If I do end up opening up and getting this, I would definitely test it out. I was looking to put it in kind of a negative deck or something with Arm and Zola to see if on turn 6 you have priority, Arm and Zola in the two lanes. As your opponent goes to play in those lanes, those cards get destroyed on the last turn. I want to see how that would work out. It'd be pretty tricky to see if that works actually, because then the cards that they play in those lanes that isn't locked down with Xavier, they will get destroyed, right? That will make sense. I would assume that would happen, but we'll see. I will see what happens. Nonetheless, I've seen about 3 people so far open up their caches that they had reserved and pull this card. So I'm not sure if Second Dinner was like, you know what, let's give everyone this card that have caches reserved. Like, I don't know, because this is the first time I've ever seen any new card come out and people actually getting it in their reserves. Like, I've never seen that before. So you and a few others already got this card from the reserve. So let's see what happens. But other than that, I totally agree. I mean, you had to pick one between this or Katie Pride. It's definitely going to be Katie Pride. All right. And then we also have this wonderful topic to discuss, the new location, Android M. That should be going live, I assume, tonight. Is that correct?
Yes, should be tonight on reset.
All right. So after you play a 3 or 4 cost, move it here. So that's very interesting. What's your guys' take on this location?
I really like this, though. I don't think we have really seen a location like this too much before. I like the idea of that you can play a 3 or 4 drop and then it moves it to this location. So obviously, any of your vulture and multiple man, it automatically triggers it for you. So definitely, I'm definitely going to be trying out move tomorrow with this for sure.
Yeah, Vulture and Miles seem like pretty obvious things there, and I actually think it's kind of interesting. Um, you could do like a turn 3 Vulture, turn 4 Doctor Strange. You get the Vulture out of there and you move the Doctor Strange over, so you make some more room, and then you can play the Miles as well. But it is kind of interesting that if you're playing on curve on turn 3 or 4, this is almost like an Avengers compound. You're playing here whether you want to or not. Like the on reveal might happen in a different lane, but you're going to end up here. So do you play off curve? Do you make peace with all your stuff being concentrated in one location? Or something else? Do you maybe, I don't know, after the Space Stone change, I know spoilers for later in the show, location control might be good again. Maybe we just storm this. Maybe people just play a Vulture and this has already been stormed and then they have a 3-3. So I don't know. I think there's more of an interesting dynamic here of trying to take advantage of what people will do with this by ignoring it or shutting it down.
I kind of like that idea too. You talk about that of kind of make the building your deck to not be affected by this. So if you play like a bounce pro list, so you're playing a lot of
Yeah.
ones and twos and stuff, and so you're not really affected with this. Your cards are not moving in, but your opponent is. So I think you could take advantage of something like that also.
That's a good point. I think definitely something to check out, especially tonight after refresh. Try a few things to see what happens. I totally agree with that. That's a good play, actually. Storm it or the vulture. I think that's a good play to do, actually, especially with vulture too, because you get that buff as he moves. So that's pretty good. Yeah, we'll see what happens. I mean, this is one of the locations that I feel isn't so intrusive like other locations. I mean, it's been a while, right? Since Lamentus, I think, since the location has been very intrusive. So let's see what happens. I don't know if anybody's excited for it, but I mean, we'll see how it goes. All right,
I mean,
now
I'm always excited for new locations. That's one of my favorite things is seeing the new locations because I really do think they kind of mix stuff up and do kind of shadow buff or nerf some cards or strategies, especially once you start kind of getting a theme like we've had in the past of like a couple of the
yeah,
same destroy ones week to week in a row. You destroy decks feel really strong, and I think this one I'll be interested to see how it plays out.
yeah, let's see. Definitely, well, we don't have that long to find out, so we'll definitely know how that goes. All right,
Yes.
and then we on to something very, very interesting. This was the roadmap that came out earlier this week, which looks very interesting.
Yes, finally
Um,
got an update. Been a couple
yes,
months.
been a couple months. This roadmap has some great things on it. Um, the coming soon is always close enough where we're going to see it in the next month or so. So that's pretty good. In development is a little bit further out. And then in concept is probably sometime at the end of the year or the beginning of the next. With the coming soon, we have the new competitive mode called Conquest, which I think is everyone's most anticipated new um, mode, right? Something that I think will give
Mhm.
Snap some type of longevity. Of course, a new mode, which is pretty cool. We have new card acquisition improvements, which I think kind of went live today with the patch. We also have the token shop revamp, which I haven't seen, but I don't have any Series 3. I don't know if you guys have any Series 3s left to get. I know Loot doesn't. What about you, Ridiculous Hat?
No, I should have held my reserves, but I didn't, and I opened a Tuma 2 days ago, so
Ah,
it's whatever. But
okay.
it's, 100 tokens, and then I guess if I had saved it and been patient like I should have been, I would have had another pool 4 today. But what are you gonna do? It's fine.
Yeah. Uh,
Um, and I've talked to a lot of people that have gotten their free pool 3. It's interesting. They made a lot of the token shop mechanics simpler, but because they were so complicated before, people keep looking for the catch. Like I've had a bunch of conversations with people that are like, "Oh, so I'm supposed to save this pool 3 card because I'll get more tokens, right?" No, just go get your free card. But the way they phrased it in the patch notes today, it says players who aren't complete with pool 3 get 4 times as many tokens. That was the bullet point. What they
Mhm.
meant was we swap the two different kinds of token caches, so you lose less when you open a pool 3 card and you get more when you don't. But what they said is, if you're not pool 3 complete, you get 4 times more tokens.
Right.
And so that means people are leaving the card uncollected so they get more tokens. Even though that's not at all how that works.
That's not the case. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, they got to make that a little bit more clear. That's interesting.
And an interesting thing, you were talking about that I was Series 3 complete. As of today, I was not, because Orca moved down. So Orca was Series 3 now. So I did collect that. So that is kind of cool that when there are series drops, you have that to also claim a card if you haven't already got it. Because Orca was the only one I didn't have. So
that's interesting. Wow, and you went all the way down to Series 3 for you, and you finally got them. Okay, well, now you are Series 3 complete. Interesting. And then we have some rank mode improvements, and of course the infinite rank revamp, which, as I understood, is at some point in the near future. Like the issues we have now with matchmaking, infinite players will only play infinite players, which I think is something that should have been done a while ago, because I know a lot of people who are climbing up the ranks at a very low level, 75, are playing people that have the new card backs, the infinite card backs, which I think is kind of interesting. I know MMR has a lot to do with it too, but this should fix that problem, and I'm excited to see how that goes. Then, of course, in development, we have the PC widescreen UI, we have smart decks, we have avatars and titles by deck, we have personalization shopped, we have a global matchmaking, and of course, in concept, we have the guilds, social systems, PC controller support, seasonal audio, mythic variants, which is what I'm most intrigued to see, collectible emotes and card emojis, and test deck mode, which I think is huge for a lot of people to test out things versus waiting to go to infinite and then test it out. Now, with all this awesome things that's happening in the roadmap, what is your guys' most anticipated thing you guys want to see?
So the one that I'm looking at is obviously Conquest, I think, because I was trying to look at it, and I'm pretty sure this is, other than the changes that came today, there's the one that we're going to see that they actually gave a date that they're hoping to release it in June. So that's not too far away at all. And I think this is just, will give you another take to be the competitive route, something that you could really have fun and trying to be good at, and moving up those ranks and stuff. I know there's a lot of questions with this mode. Not sure if they've all been answered, but like if you can farm certain ones or that stuff like that. I know that one question was if there would be bots. They did confirm that there will be no bots in this mode. So that's nice that you're only going to be trying to get those 3 wins in each rank and versus actual players. But that's the mode. I think that's probably the thing that we see coming soon that I'm definitely the most hyped for.
What about you, RidiculousHat? How do you feel? What's your most anticipated?
I mean, battle mode rules, and just getting to press the button and go into battle mode, like, super rules.
Mm-hmm.
It reminds me a lot of, for those of you boomer card gamers out there, reminds me a lot of 8-Mans on Magic Online, except the UI will be functional in this program. So I'm very excited about that. Every time I play battle mode, it stretches different muscles than just queuing on ladder and grinding games endlessly. You metagame more. There will be a lot more Kangs, which I'm not sure if that's better or worse, but there are going to be more Kangs. Though also I will point out, infinite skill ranking. Post infinite now, instead of it being just you start at, well, I guess 105 and moving your way up, it actually stack ranks you. The skill rating score, which we know is coming later this year at some point. And that means you don't have to grind as much, and you have kind of a mini leaderboard in the client, because people want to be number one. They want to be the best. But no one wants to grind bots forever, except for Code Deco, to get to rank 1000. And so, while that's a different goal, the idea of climbing to be the best player with that stack ranked infinite, it makes post infinite so much better. So I'm not always an infinite gamer, but when I am, that makes me much more interested in climbing, as opposed to right now, where I am routinely checking to make sure that rank 100 floor is still there. I check that every day. Just make sure I slam into it and see that I don't smash through it.
Interesting. Okay, no, I totally hear that. Yeah, the Conquest mode I think is going to be fun. I'm not sure if you guys ever played Yu-Gi-Oh!, but like Duel Links or Master Duel, where you go and you load up, you have to play against those in the bronze level, and then once you defeat them twice or defeat people in bronze twice, you go on to the next level, gold, silver, etc., etc. So I'm assuming Conquest is the same type of way, which I think is pretty cool. It's something different, it brings something great to the game, as well as being able to get things like variants or special emotes, whatever the case is, at the end of that Conquest, right? So that you will only get in Conquest mode. So I think that's huge. That gives people some type of incentive to continue to play that type of gameplay. So that's pretty awesome. I can't wait for that.
Now, I do have a question for both of you. This has been contentious. What do we think about not being able to pay tokens for Pool 3 cards? Because you get your freebie now, but by giving us the freebie, they're also removing the ability to buy Pool 3 cards. This has come up a lot in channels I've been in of players saying, well, it's really hard to target a deck now, but also I'm not sure that Pool 3 and complete players were even earning 1,000 tokens a month before. I don't know. I'm curious where you two land on it.
Yeah, I would have to see the math. I've been playing since like the second week or the first week of beta, and so I've been Pool 3 complete before the game went live and everything with release. So I'm not sure like what their token gain and stuff is like that. If they were gaining less than 1,000, then this is obviously a great change because they can save those tokens for cards they want in the future, the Series 4 and 5 cards. And they can save up those tokens and don't have to worry about it and can still get that monthly free card. But it is kind of a thing too. I mean, if you're looking at it that way, it's also like the free to play players, but there are players that are not Pool 3 complete that have money to spend. It does limit those players if they are getting 2,000 tokens a month because they are buying bundles and passes and all that stuff, and then so it's only really hurting their card game there of being able to select cards. So I think it's an interesting change that definitely would have to have. Maybe we can do that soon. Super Tech, we can have some non-Series 3 complete people and see how they feel about this change.
How they feel about it. Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with you on that too, but I also look at it as when we were climbing, right? We didn't have a token shop first and foremost. So that's fine, right? So we had to earn our Series 3 cards.
We didn't have reserves. There weren't even reserves in the game at the time. It was just a card every 96 levels.
Yes, exactly. So I mean, we had to earn those cards, which is fine, right? Series 3 cards, I mean, there are a few of them that you definitely want to have. But I think to give them the option to kind of purchase either 4 or 5 is better than getting a Series 3 in that token shop. That's how I feel. Continue to grind out and get those Series 3 cards in the collection. But of course, now you get to save your tokens and purchase a Series 4 or 5 card. Now, yes, like you guys said, it goes back to how many tokens were you guys getting anyway to be able to say, hey, I feel bad, I can't buy a Series 3 card now, because in reality, I don't think it was that much. So I don't think it's going to be a problem. I think those players who don't have all of Series 3 will still be okay, especially when they see these new Series 4 cards that they want to get. That was the biggest complaint, right? Hey, I'm stuck in Series 3. I can't get a Series 4 card, or it doesn't show up in my shop. I'm getting a bunch of Series 3 instead. Now that kind of fixes that problem. So I guess you can't have it both ways, right? You can't say, I want to see more Series 4, more Series 5, and still want to see Series 3. So I think it's for the better. But again, we should talk to some of those who don't have the full collection and find out how they feel.
Yeah, I think it's a tricky thing too, because people are in different spots. Like there are your free-to-play players trying to collect all the Series 3 cards. Right. There are people that are spending money and getting tokens and stuff. So everyone's getting at a rate depending on their situation. So very hard to balance. But I do like the change overall. I think, like I said, talking to someone that this actually affects, or waiting and seeing a couple weeks and seeing how it feels is probably the best. But definitely a hard one to judge right off the bat.
I totally agree. All right, and now for the main event. Today's wonderful, amazing patch has been released, ladies and gentlemen. And wow, we have a lot to talk about. So we kind of dived into the whole Series 3 tokens and the token shop, etc. We already spoke about that, so we'll go past that for now. Then, of course, we have the Series 5, the Series 4 drop, which have Zabu, Sauron, which a few people already got, so I'm happy for them because this is a great card. A lot of people sleep on it, but it definitely is a great card. Shauna, Dazzler, and Shadow King. These cards should already started off in Series 4, to be honest, but it is what it is. Series 4 to Series 3. These cards should already been Series 3. I think Master Mode should have been in Series 2. whatever. We're not gonna get into that. Right. So Mbaku, Orca, and Atuma went down to Series 3. Perfect. Now we have new audio for the cards in the game. Thanos, Nimrod, Master Mole. Yeah, which was weird because that animation sounded like it needed a sound. So I can't wait to see what it is. And of course, Negasonic Teenage Warhead. And then the locations for Morag and Bar Sinister. I think Camp Leia or Camp Lee still doesn't have a sound for that trumpet, but I hope that's added as well. Did any of you guys already see or hear these new audios for these items?
So I don't
I've-
play with sound on, because I play on my phone when I
gotcha.
can,
I gotcha.
like on breaking stuff
Yeah,
at work.
same for me today.
Yeah, but I did see that there's something else. I saw Raven pointed out earlier too. It's not a new sound effect, but it's a new visual effect. She-Hulk now points out when every turn when it reduces. Like it
Sounds
makes
great.
a little like effect, and so I don't know if it has a sound that ties into it, but it definitely shows you, hey, look, this energy cost just changed on She-Hulk.
Okay. All right. Okay. That's fantastic. I mean, they should always do that for all types of cards that does something in the game. Like how Zabu, he does that whole cut of the cards cost. That's pretty good. So that's pretty good that they did that for She-Hulk. They should do that for, well, no, nobody else really does anything in your hand like that. But
I mean,
we'll see.
it just depends. But yeah, if on anything, because Raven also pointed out it'd be nice, like if the opponent's Nightcrawler floated or something, so you know if it moved or not already, stuff like that. But anything, I think it's a plus anytime that there is a something that draws
Visual.
attention to a change. Yeah,
Totally agree. Then we have
Miles has something like that, right? Like he's got that little.
yes, the senses. You get this.
Mhm.
You're absolutely right.
I wish we got to see that more, man. I love Miles. Maybe with Asteroid M, we'll finally see that Miles.
Miles gets some loves. You're right. You're absolutely right.
Yes.
Then we have the Almighty Thanos now has VFX along with the Infinity Stone. So I'm intrigued to see this. I don't play with Thanos, but I'm sure I'll be playing against some people who have
It
Thanos.
looks really cool. You
Yeah,
should check
yeah.
it out. He's got there's an animation at the start of the game. They all glow now. When they draw a card off the top
Ooh.
of the deck, they shoot a beam that matches their color to show you the
Yeah.
card being drawn. And when all 6 are in play, they just it's cool. It is.
That's
cool
awesome.
thing.
All right, so now everybody's gonna play Thanos. I love it. Okay, I'll definitely check it out. We have some balance updates, of course, and which this or involves these card updates, right? So Thanos now gets. I mean, we have a bunch of nerfs and I believe one buff, but we'll go through all the nerfs first, right? So we have Thanos from 6'11 to 6'10. They increased his power during the previous patch. Wanted to bring it back down to a 10. I think it should have stayed at an 8, to be honest. But
well, they point out in the developer notes there they wanted to keep it above 9 before you can still
for the
change
sheet.
it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Which I get. So 10 is fine. I mean, and then when he doubles, he's 20, right? So it is what it is. At that point, it's fine. I have no issue with that. I have no problem with that. You guys have an issue with the Thanos nerf?
Yeah, I think it's fine. I mean, I'm glad that they do keep it above Shang-Chi range.
Shang-Chi.
So.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about you?
I mean, this is just like it's a drop in the bucket. The important things are further down the notes, but like, sure, a nice little nudge is fine to make sure that the deck gets worse.
Now, the Space Stone, which is the only stone that got a nerf or even got touched, on reveal next turn, you can move one card at this location and then draw a card. Now, this one is now next turn, you can move one card to this location and then draw a card. So this is a great change for the Space Stone, especially with those who are playing Lockjaw, moving Lockjaw out and doing other cool, crazy things with it. So I think this is kind of a great thing to kind of slow that down and probably give Lockjaw one less thing to pull up. So I'm not upset with this. I think it's pretty good. What do you guys feel about this nerf for the Space Stone?
Yeah, I think this is a huge change for what you're saying. Being able to, in the Lockjaw decks, that freed up space by moving it out or moving the Lockjaw out. It also, the deck already is very flexible, but this also had to give you another flexibility of being able to move into lanes that you couldn't play into if you could sneak stuff into Sanctum or non-6 drops into Plunder Castle and stuff like that. Like that was a big deal also. And so you limit it with that. And giving it a little bit less wiggle room and how it can move around stuff. I think it's a big change and much needed.
Yeah, this is the biggest change for the Thanos deck, and probably the most impactful change. Period. It's Lockjaw lost somewhere between 1 and 4 activations per game just from this change. You can only move Lockjaw once. You can only move it into a lane that already has a Space Stone. You can't trigger it off the Space Stone, and you cannot move Lockjaw twice. So the deck is now 1 to 1.5 lanes that you can fill with cheating, and also spoilers. Those stones now cost mana, energy, whatever. They cost something. So you're
Mhm.
not able to do that across 3 lanes for not a lot of energy overall. And this change, I really love this because it means location control is good again. This is a buff to Storm. You can finally storm people again, as opposed to the entire time Lockjaw Thanos was good before. You just felt like an idiot because you would lock at a location and you're like, all right, I'm just going to move the Devil Dino in there and
Yeah.
nice storm.
Right.
So,
Right.
yeah, seems like a huge deal.
Okay, perfect. There's no other stones you guys want to see get nerfed, or even, well, I think nerfed.
Now, I think it's fine. I think the next change we're about to talk about is the real change, what I think is the most impactful for the whole meta, and something that I've thought they've needed to do for a little while. Like, you kind of need consistency in card games like this, and I think most card games eventually learn that free spells can be very dangerous. So I think this is the only stone that's fine. I think if they didn't make the next change, they could have maybe like took the draw off Soul Stone or something to try to slow down the draw a little bit. But yeah, I think this was the main culprit for sure.
So Quinjet now reduces cost to a minimum of 1. I think we spoke about this on the last podcast, or even by ourselves, that Quinjet
Mhm.
should start doing that, right? Be able to say,
Mhm.
all right, nothing go lower than 0, just like how Miles can never go lower than 0. So I think this is a great nerf for this card. And it's not only for the Thanos deck. I think it also helps with all the other cards that, like they say here, like the Demon or any other card that can go down to 0. This kind of helps prevent that, and any cards in the future, right? So I think this is a great nerf, and this alone will help with trying to fight the Thanos deck, because I guarantee you no one is running Quinjet in a Thanos deck right now.
Man, I hate this change. They probably had to do it, but I hate it. Because, okay, so I understand Zero Mana things are dangerous. They're also really fun. It's really fun to do
Mhm.
that. You had all these other Thanos Zoo decks that you would spew out your whole hand over the course of multiple turns, and then you would get killmongered, and the game would end, and you would lose. So it's I wish this wasn't what they had to do. It probably was, because if you don't do this, then you have to hit Lockjaw, and you have to hope that's enough. And I'm not here defending Lockjaw. I think that card is a bigger scammer than Quinjet ever was. Quinjet will probably save you six energy. How much does Lockjaw save you over the course of the game? More than 6. But
Right.
the deck feels so much clunkier now without Quinjet functioning, along with the Space Stone change. It needs a major rework. Just, I don't know if, because this is also a nerf to She-Hulk, to the Moon Girl deck. I don't know if they needed to do that. I don't know actually how it works. If you Moon Girl She-Hulks with Quinjet in play, can the second She-Hulk go down to 0? I don't know which one applies first.
I don't think so.
Well,
I think it should go to 1 based
Well,
on
the
Quinjet's
Quinjet says it
power.
goes to 1, but
Right.
She-Hulk then if Quinjet applies first and then She-Hulk reduces, it should be able to go to 0. But if She-Hulk applies first,
Oh
then
yeah,
Quinjet
yeah,
kicks in, then it has to
yeah.
stay. I don't know how that works. I'm not a doctor. I have no idea. But this is definitely impactful, along with the Space Stone change. If they didn't do that, they'd have to nudge some other things. But it does take away something that was fun for not only in this deck, but think about Bounce. Bounce really liked using Quinjet.
Mhm.
So do we have to hit Beast? Does Beast need a nerf? I don't think so. But it's okay to have 0 mana cards. 0 mana is fun.
No, I agree with you. It is fun. But yeah, if they didn't do this to Quinjet, they would have to go to other things, right? The stones,
Yeah.
or even Lockjaw. I felt they should just said the stones, just like Miles, cannot be reduced lower than 1. I think that's what they should have done. This way, you keep Quinjet the way he is, and all the stones now, no matter what happens, Elysium, etc., they won't be able to go to 0. That could have probably fixed this problem. But I guess Quinjet is a bigger problem, a bigger threat, and that's why they went this route. Because, of course, like we said here, other cards can go to 0 with Quinjet on the board, so now let's fix that. But let's see what happens. I mean, again, I want to see what decks are going to run Quinjet now because it does kind of hinder a lot of cards that pull one cost cards right into your hand. Um, what is going to happen to them? They're going to stay strictly a one now, right? A one cost. So we'll see. I mean, I definitely want to see what Quinjet is going to do now after this nerf, and if they decide sometime in the future to bring it back to what it was. Now, of course, I'm happy about this nerf solely because my girl Shuri did not get touched. If this did not happen, Shuri would have had to get nerfed to the point where I felt if they had to nerf her, she would have the ability to say she can't make any. She only can get +10. That's it, right? Doesn't matter what they are, no double, just +10, and that would have been horrible. So I'm happy to decide to go with Red Skull and give him a buff nerf. This is very interesting to me because the problem is if you're going to make him 513, I thought he should have been 511. It is what it is. 513, a difference of 6 points. That's fine. This should have stayed at +2, right? Because at the end of the day, now only 4 is going to go to each location, to that location. We only get +4. We used to get way higher than that, right? So I'm very confused as to why they decided to make it lower. Even looking at the notes, it doesn't make sense why he's a +1 when they could have kept him a +2 and just dropped his power to 13. What is your guys' take? What do you guys feel about Red Skull going to 513 and giving +1 instead of +2?
So I think the plus was changed for the overall like effectiveness of the card, because if you think about it in the way of it giving your opponent's cards, so let's say they have 4 cards and you have just Red Skull. So in essence, Red Skull with this change is a 5/9, but if it still was +2, it'd be a 5/6, and then 5/6 is, if that's all they do is a 5/6, that doesn't seem very strong. So 5/9 does feel like a little bit more in line. And I've heard other people talk about this, but I think Red Skull is a card that's supposed to mean like you're going to 1v1 a lane, like you're going to play it in a lane with one other card. I think that was kind of like the design purpose with it. So I think that this still kind of keeps that of if they have 1 or 2 cards, you can still probably just beat it with a Red Skull without sharing it. But I think this is a nice change. I think this is definitely one of the changes though that we're gonna have to see played out and see. This one needs time for sure.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
all right.
Is this a buff? Did they buff this card? I think they kind of like, okay, other 5/9s. Abomination is a 5/9. What else is this stat? Like Black Bolt's a 5/8. Spider Woman is 5/8 plus the 4 subtraction, but this seems like a better card standalone now. As unless you were just like 1v1ing like playing in the Space Throne. But it also is point neutral with how it was pre-change because it goes to 26 -4 as opposed to 30 -8, which is the same. So I guess it makes Taskmaster worse, but
Yep, go ahead.
Yeah, like if it makes Taskmaster worse by 4 points. It makes base Red Skull better. It makes the doubled Red Skull the same. I don't really know what this was meant to accomplish, and I can't meaningfully say if the card is actually worse. And that's kind of a strange place to be when you're taking away Thanos. That got a bunch of really impactful changes, and this deck seems to have gotten off a lot easier.
Yeah, if you're talking about the deck in general, for sure, if the change, this doesn't seem like it touches that deck too much. There are maybe other changes. I think there's one other change that we'll see here in a moment that touches 3 other cards, kind of just a rules change. But yeah, I think the Red Skull change is just going to take time to see. But yeah, I think because I mean it's also the same thing if you were thinking about before. If it was 5/15 with +2, it was still a 5/9 then also. So it's very confusing to see. Well, it's gonna be interesting to see how this one turns out.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, like I said, they mostly did it because of the Shuri getting it to 530 was a problem. Of course, using Wong or putting on Kamertage, getting it to 560, very difficult to beat regardless. So I think this is perfect, especially out with the Taskmaster as well. This definitely helps bringing it down to 513, kind of. I mean, again, we have to see what happens. I'm not sold that this 2 point reduction in power is going to be any difference, because I still think 26 and 52 are big numbers to beat, regardless of how you look at it. But now we have She-Hulk, which I think shouldn't have been touched. I'm not sure why. I mean, well, okay, I am sure why based on reading the comments, but bringing her down to a 6'9" versus a 6'10". If the nerf to Destroyer never happened, I would say 1 point less means nothing when it comes to these type of cards. But we see with Destroyer, it definitely helped win those lanes against Destroyer. So making her 6'9", I think, is kind of a good nerf for the meta in general. And why not? What's your guys' take on it? Because I still think everybody's playing She-Hulk, right? I'm still playing She-Hulk, but that's what you guys think.
Well, see, you should still be happy. I know you love Sherry decks or whatever, and you're going to be real happy when you have this 6'9" She-Hulk and they Scorpion you on turn 2, because everyone plays Scorpion, and now
Yes.
your She-Hulk doesn't get Shang-Chi. So this just makes it a little bit better. So
That's true. You're
but
absolutely right.
yeah, so I think it's a fine change. We'll see how much it actually affects it. I'm definitely still running a She-Hulk and She-Hulk decks. So hasn't made me think about that or anything. They still seem like they're performing fine. So will be interesting. I know that they're a fan of sometimes of just tinkering with the power cost and stuff. So be interested how this one goes out in the long run too.
Yep. I think that if I were picking a point in the game to divide it into 2 eras, it would not be global versus beta. It would be pre-She-Hulk and post-She-Hulk. I think this is probably the most game-defining card. You look at the 4 most played cards in Marvel Snap, at least before the patch: Arrow, Sunspot, Shang, and She-Hulk. And the first 3 cards are either in synergy with her, in response to her, or both. Infinite, Moon Girl, She-Hulk is huge. Sunspot gets better because She-Hulk exists. Arrow gets better because it moves a bunch of She-Hulks in those burst turns and in Deathwave decks or whatever. All of these are... This is turn 6 burst stuff, and Second Dinner has made it really, really clear that they do not want this to be a turn 6 burst game. However, they also designed a turn 6 burst game, because that is what Marvel Snap is and always will be. So they will constantly have to pull it back. Ever since Carnage de Nova or Sarah Miracle in early beta, they will always have to pull back turn 6 burst. And this is one of those patches, and this is what that looks like. So I'm not surprised they did it. I do think She-Hulk probably needed to change. She was so popular, so frequently seen, and would just kill you with 40 points out of nowhere. That's a lot of points to play in one turn.
Nope, you're absolutely right. Actually, that's very true. I totally agree with you on that. Wow, beta times, huh? Nova, good time. Taking it back there, RidiculousHat.
Carnage
That
de
was
Nova, 3/3 Moon Girl, 3/0 Dino, Nova gave
those.
+2, Collector gained +2. Oh man, it was a different era.
It was a great time. Nakia hits your whole hand. Nakia on Wong,
Whew,
swarms,
whew.
beautiful swarms, thick swarms for days. 2/6 Hell Cow. Come on, we can't. Those are the
Oh
good
man,
days. Those are the good days. Play
were
Magic on
they?
turn 6. No, they were bad.
Don't forget
Or-
2/9 Strong Guy. 2/9
Oh
Strong Guy.
my
Get a couple of those
gosh.
down.
2-9 strong guy. Wow. Yeah, those days was kind of crazy. Listen, and like I said, Magic on turn 6, right? But we didn't have Leech or Leader, or we had Leech and Leader, but they weren't a problem. But we know why. We're not gonna get into that. And then now we go down to Loot Munch's favorite card of all time. I'm sad to see this happen. She gets a buff in power, but of course now, instead of moving all cards that are played in that turn to Arrow's location, she now moves the last card played this turn into this location. Now, there's really no upside. I mean, it is what it is. Nonetheless, I think this had to happen. I think Arrow was becoming way too powerful. And if she only pulled the cards in order they were played, this probably wouldn't have been such a big problem. But the fact that she did not do that, she just pulled all the cards into a different location, I think caused a huge problem. And this doesn't really kill her per se. It kind of keeps her in, because Arrow's still going to be in everybody's deck. But now it's all about what card you play last. Now you really have to think about what card do you play when you're playing that turn with Arrow on the other side. Especially if it's a card that you don't want to move, right? Let's say you're playing 6 power with like a Wasp, right? So you're going to make sure Wasp is the last card you play just so that Arrow pulls that card and not your main card. Luke, I got to bring this over to you. How do you feel?
So I was, there's no other word, devastated when I first saw it. But after playing with it, because I'm like, I'm going to jam it. I'm going to figure out if it's still good. I think Arrow is still playable, still fine. I think you have to redefine the decks that she was in.
Right.
She was getting very popular because she was good against the Shiri Red Skull decks and stuff like that. Like, I feel like a lot of people were just sticking her in a deck as an answer for something like that, or pairing up with She-Hulk. I think she's now just goes into different decks or different strategies. I've tried her out. She's still very good in Death Wave. Still very good if you can break that symmetry with She-Hulk and Death and give you the advantage and pulling one card. It just makes you stack things up a little different, which I think is fine. It makes you think about it a little bit more. And another, the other deck I've been trying it in is Sandman. Because Sandman, it only moves one card. So that's right. All you can play. So that's fine. So I still think Arrow will be fine. Like I said, I would have rather see them try the pull in order because I feel like it should always been pull in order. Because this, I mean, it kind of does the same thing in a different way. This, in turn, when you play it, you have to think about what they're playing as their last card. When before, if it made it where it pulled in order, then your opponent would have to think about how they played cards. But it's kind of the same thing, work around with that. So I think Arrow will be fine, but we'll definitely see less play now for sure.
So this is a buff asterisk. Okay, there's an asterisk. She is a much better 5-drop now because you no longer have to hold her to 6. You just play her on turn 5. She's just a thing that you play on turn 5, and that's pretty good. She's very good on turn 5 of disrupting the setup for turn 6 and letting you know what's going to happen on the next turn. She is a substantially worse 6-drop. She is a much worse game ender, which is probably healthier for the game. So you remember when Leader was in the meta, and you had that feeling in the back of your head in the start of turn 5, even if no one has snapped, I'm an idiot for staying in this game. They're just going to leader me on 6 and I lose. There's nothing I can do. That was the feeling. But then Leader got nerfed. But I noticed that feeling still sometimes. Whenever I had a lane with space, it's like, I'm just going to get arrowed. Why even stay in the game? Just that feeling of what I'm going to do won't matter. And you really don't want that feeling in the game on turn 6 of staying in the game is a huge mistake because of the card I know they have. And I think Arrow probably had that more than any other card in current Snap. I had a turn 6 checklist of Chavez, Arrow, and Doom. I can take Arrow off that list now for the most part. You still got to make sure that you don't lose to Chavez or Doom, and I think the Doom is huge right now. But I'm really glad that turn 6 is going to be a little bit more interesting, and the idea of maybe we have people playing 5-drops on turn 5 on purpose now, not just Blue Marvel, but maybe we see a Spider-Woman here and there. Maybe we even do a Black Bolt into a stature thing. It was getting kind of boring there for a while that Arrow was just the correct top end in so many decks.
No, I agree. I totally agree with that. You're right. I think she's definitely good as the best turn 5 card now, especially if she's in decks with Sandman. Then I totally get why she should be on turn 6 because of course they only can play in that one. They only play one card, so I get it. Or if you wave on turn 5, of course Arrow's good on that last turn. But no, I totally agree. That's a very good point. I mean, yes, when Leader was around, it was like, yeah, Leader's coming. Now it was like, yeah, Arrow's coming. I played a bunch of Red Skull, Shuri Red Skull with Sauron, and that always happens. Like, all right, where I'm going to put this Taskmaster because she's going to pull it. Or if, Armin Zola, they have priority, it's going to get pulled. So you're absolutely right. I think making Arrow this best 5 cost card, I think is pretty good. And that 8 power is not bad. 8 power is not bad at all, especially if you want to Shuri into arrow. It's not a bad number, right? 516, not bad at all.
It's all right.
Yeah, not bad. You can Taskmaster after that if you want. Speaking of which, we have Mystique, Absorbing Man, and Taskmaster all had text being updated for their cards, basically saying on reveal, the last card play here is an ongoing. Copy its text if it's in play. Now that's huge because there's a lot of times where cards get destroyed or Shang-Chi'd, and Mystique will still become Darkhawk or Iron Man. Absorbing Man will still copy the on reveal of a card that got destroyed. Same thing with Taskmaster. Red Skull would get Shang-Chi'd, Taskmaster will still copy that. Huge power. So this is pretty good. I think this needed to happen, especially if cards are not in play. These cards should not copy those abilities. So that's pretty good. I'm very happy about that. Morbius is, you guys, how you feel about it? I think it's right. But you guys tell me how you feel.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is kind of like what we saw. I think it was still beta when they kind of made the overall adjustments to discard cards. I think it's just something in development that they kind of had and they kind of realized was a problem and they kind of adjusted everything at once. I think these cards, they realized that could be a problem. Shang-Chi gets rid of the Red Skull, but you can still Taskmaster, stuff like that. But it does kind of suck that Absorbing Man is definitely the card that saw the least amount of play of all these, and it gets touched by this too. But maybe I'll just play more Absorbing Man because I can turn 5 arrow and turn 6 Absorbing Man. I can have all the arrows. But yeah, I think it's a good change, and it's one that needed to be happening. It's just kind of defining the rule set moving forward that you think now when you see a new card that's going to have an effect similar to this, it's probably going to work the same way. So just nice to have that precedence.
There was a huge consistency issue where Enchantressing a card would break all of these, but killing the card would be fine. So I don't really love the idea that turning it off is better than killing it. So I think making it consistent that it's either functioning or not functioning, whether it's here or gone, it just makes more sense. I don't even view this as a balance change, though it will make all of these cards worse because they have a condition to them. But it's more just it does what you think it should do without having to go into a Discord and saying, is this a bug? And then someone explains it to you. This just makes more sense.
Agreed. You guys remember Armin Zola could copy cards that were in armor?
That was so weird.
Yeah, that was exactly. So this is kind of the fix, right? It was kind of interesting. Armin Zola could do that. All right, so then we go on to Morbius's power. This, just like Null now, will no longer update in your hand or in your deck, only at the location. So as I understand this, Morpheus now has to be played for it to get its buff. Am I reading that right?
Yeah.
So if Morbius is in your hand and you discarded a bunch of cards, that number doesn't go up even after you play it?
No. So
when you play it happens.
Okay, all right, good. Okay, good. So even if it's in your deck, you discarded the cards, he comes out, you play it, then it will show the number. Just like how Devil Dino is a 5/3, and then when you play it, you see the numbers, right?
Correct.
Okay, perfect. All right, so that's fine. Null, however, is that the same concept, or am I understanding that? No.
So it updates in the hand, but it no longer updates in the deck. That's to keep it consistent with like Mr. Negative stuff.
Mr. Negative buff, let's go. Let's go.
That's exactly what I got. Definitely got Mr. Negative buff because I was worried
I'm here
about
for
that.
Nullative. And like it makes sense too because these cards aren't the same case with Morbius. If you want to know how big he is, you click on your opponent's portrait and it shows you how many cards were discarded this game. But for Null, you have to know the total power that was destroyed. So it's easier for the card to tell you because all the menu tells you is how many cards were destroyed, not their total power. That is not information that you can glean by looking at a number and doubling it. This is something you have to either keep track of or hope the game keeps track of it for you. So Mr. Negative buff, here for it. Big fan, and then otherwise it's just a rules consistency update.
That's awesome. Yeah, you're right. Makes sense. It happened to me before when I negative him and he was in the deck and we destroyed cards and it inverted the numbers because he was in the deck and I thought, oh, that was part of the game so that you couldn't negative Null. But now that was a bug. This is now the way it's supposed to be. So you're right. Mr. Negative buff for null. It's pretty good.
Yeah,
He needs all the help he can get. Like, he's not
Yeah.
doing that well.
I think I sent you a screenshot of that, Ken, one day when we were battle moding and you were playing like some weird, crazy king, null, negative deck. And I forgot what it was, but I stole it somehow. Cable. I cabled it.
Yeah.
And it was like an 816. And
Yeah.
I'm like,
And I was like,
an 816.
exactly.
No, I'm like, what's happening? Why is this an 816?
Exactly. And that's the madness. That's exactly the madness. So this is great for it. I'm happy. Definitely on board with that for sure. Especially playing some negative Galactus. This is great. Widow's Bite now. So text has been updated basically saying you cannot draw any cards with this in your hand. So that means cards like Cable won't draw a card for you when this card is in your hand, where before it did, right? I'm assuming that also counts for if you're winning a lane with Adam Warlock, it won't pull a card as well. That's interesting.
This just text only. So like you still didn't get to draw the cards anyways if you still had it in your hand. So this is just a text change. This doesn't change how the card's actually going to work.
All right, perfect.
Yeah.
So
if I'm reading that
Cable,
correctly, yes.
Correct. Yeah. So Cable would work, but the issue with the text there, it says while this is in your hand, cards in your deck cannot be drawn. Your opponent would play the Cable and draw from your deck, and the text was at odds with that, or weird world. So
I got you.
what it actually was supposed to say is while this is in your hand, you cannot make the action of drawing cards. So they just updated the text to reflect that.
To reflect that. That makes sense now. Okay, perfect. We got a bunch of bug fixes, which is great. Did they fix? Do we know if they fixed Kang and Sentry? Because that was a big problem too. Those cards will kind of break the game. Copy. Oh, they fixed the loop though. Okay, that's pretty good.
I know that both Kang and Sentry, the animations, like you would have to actually close the client and then reopen it to get back in the game. I speak of that as a proud Sentry First Edition owner. I unfortunately figured that out. It's not awesome. That's the only P5 I've opened.
Oh wow!
I haven't tried it because I haven't seen a lot of people running Sentry today for some reason. But I did run into a Kang and it was fine.
Okay. All right. Oh yeah, this is interesting. You no longer see the unowned card abilities. Okay, so they fixed a bunch of awesome things. Oh yeah, that was crazy too. How the objects would go away before the opponent retreated. So I'm happy they fixed that as well. Oh, wait, no, you can only click on objects behind. No. Did they fix the retreat problem?
I'm not sure.
I gotta play today and find out.
It also looks like we got a leech buff.
Yes, Leech definitely did get buff.
They removed the Lockjaw interaction where if you shuffle a card back in, it gets its abilities back. They turned that off.
Yes, correct. And that sucks because, as you guys know on the 2 podcasts I mentioned, if they made Leech, here we go. If they make Leech a 3-cost, Crystal will get some play, right? Because you can shuffle the cards. Crystal will get some love because she will then unleash those cards. But based on this now, those cards will remain Leech no matter if you put them back in your deck, or if a location switches it, or Lockjaw, which give Leech that extra buff that everyone asks for, right? Did everyone ask for Leech to get buff? I'm sure they did. Nobody wants to see anything happen to Leech. But yeah, that's a big, I mean, I don't know how you guys take on it, but Leech definitely needs to be adjusted. It didn't happen. I don't think it's going to happen right now. I think based on the nerfs that we see, they're hoping that nobody looks at Leech anymore. But what do you guys think? Is Leech going to become even a bigger problem, or should Leech not be touched now because the other nerfs suffice everything?
I think they're obviously going to collect data and see if they need to make a change. I do think it's risky. I don't know if they've actually clarified it or whatnot. If their technology to make hot fixes is back up and running or not. But if it's not, I think this is a bold move I think most of the community really wanted a Leech nerf. And if you can't make a change for another 4 to 5 weeks and Leech does turn out to still be a problem, I think that's a very bad look. So it'll be very interesting to see. I do think there was enough changes to that deck to say maybe Leech will be okay or less like dominant, but as time will tell. It's just, to me, it's a little iffy if you cannot hot fix a change that we're just going to have to live with it for another 4 to 5 weeks. So it's interesting.
Wow.
Yeah. Glenn Jones had a really big thread on Twitter today where he's doing kind of an AMA about this stuff and talked about, he alluded to a couple hotfix changes possible, like they could hotfix Red Skull to be smaller, but that's just a numbers change, so I don't know if that's the same thing. But yeah, I do know they
Mhm.
run into that tech issue. I hope that they change Leech at some point in the future because it's not a fun card and it doesn't meet their design goal. The purpose of Leech that they've talked about is for it to be a safety valve in case some kind of busted turn 6 thing happens and they can't nerf it. The dream there is that people put Leech in their decks and they self-regulate the meta until a real balance patch can come. But so far, we've seen Leech played only as part of proactive strategies that use it to blank the opponent's answers, not blank their threats. And then you
Right.
use Leader or crazy Thanos stuff to just have more numbers and their card text doesn't matter. So what Leech is trying to do is what Sandman actually does. And the Sandman buff
Yeah.
meaningfully stops these burst strategies. So Leech isn't good at what it's meant to do, and it also makes the game less fun. I don't think we'll see a lot of him, but I don't think there's any world that we've seen him where the game is better because he's around. So I'm hoping for some sort of rework there over time that allows them to make him something else that maybe has some kind of relevant effect, but doesn't even need to be the same text because Sandman does what they need this card to do. And you
Right.
don't need 2 Sandman kind of effects in the game because Sandman is tilting enough already, but I at least get what he's going for. I don't get what Leech is going for other than making my cards not work and making me want to leave the game. Retreat, not quit. You get the idea.
Yeah,
Yeah.
of course. Only thing Leech does that makes me happy is make my Infinite be able to be played on turn 6, even if I play a card
Yeah.
on turn 5. Right. But yeah.
Last season I was playing Patriot so that Leech would buff my
Oh, it
cards.
works.
Like,
Yes.
we were truly desperate. Just
Right.
like, yeah, go ahead and Leech me so I can play this Mysterio and it's a 2/6.
Right.
Let's go.
Yeah.
That's absolutely right. And then, of course, with the new season, with the new patches, there's always some stuff that get data mined, and there are a bunch of cool new variants, which is my favorite part of this topic, that is coming out, and that is these amazing cards. We have Carnage by Dan Hip, Venom by Dan Hip. This Magneto is phenomenal. I think the best Magneto I've ever seen. We have Moko, Captain America,
Yeah.
this She-Hulk, this Hulk. Interesting. American Chavez Venomized. We have the sick Ghost Rider, this cool looking Thor, and this seductive White Queen.
Yes.
These all look phenomenal. Dan Hip is killing it, of course. I love this Venom. This Venom is pretty sick. This Magneto is definitely top tier for me. And this Moko, Captain America, phenomenal. How do you guys feel about these new variants coming? And we're going to check out the bundle shortly.
Yeah, so I really like these variants. Going down to the bottom, you can see that there's even more of them. There's a bunch of really cool ones. I'm a big fan of. There's a couple cool Ghost Spider ones. There's one with like a selfie cell phone thing. There's a bunch of Jean Greys. There's like 6 Jean Greys, and Jean Grey's not even out
let's
yet.
take a look at this stuff. Hold on, let's go down there.
Yeah, keep going. You gotta scroll real far.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Well,
There's a
go back
Dan
up.
Hip helicarrier
Wow.
that might make me
Oh.
actually buy a helicarrier variant.
Oh my
Oh
gosh,
yes,
this
the
is so
Dan Hip
much.
hair killer.
All right, here we go. So these are new to the game. Now, these are all the variants coming out this patch or coming soon? Because why is this Misty Knight interesting? Okay.
No, these are the one in the game, but they're not available yet. So they're
Gotcha.
like added to the client today.
Yeah.
But these
and
are not.
You'll notice
though.
as well, you'll see all of the no ability cards from the game right now.
Yes,
You'll
that's
see
what I
them
mean.
because they're high evolutionary alternate versions
Mhm.
because of
that
the
makes
high
sense.
evolutionary card. Yeah, because if you
Cards
mouse over
right
them,
here.
you'll see some text.
Yes, they now have abilities. So yes, we'll talk about those in a few seconds. We'll just glass over these. Also, oh my gosh, look at that ghost.
Look,
Look
if
at
you scroll
Brood.
down, I really like that Dan Hip leader too. I mean, you'll never see play because leader doesn't see play. Scroll down a little bit more, a little bit. Keep going. Right there, and the
Look
left
at the
beside Hulk.
helicarrier.
You see
Oh,
the-
oh, is that a
I
Dan Hip
really like it.
Infinite?
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
I need this in my life. Let's go. Let's go with the Dan Hip Infinite. Sorry, I had to click on that, guys. You know me.
That does look cool.
Wow. So,
So
these variants are about time. I was waiting for this Invisible Woman. So, what's interesting though is that I have this Hellcow already, and this Kang, and this Zola, and this Kang, and this Kang, and the Shadow King. So these just came out.
yeah, I think it's a little funky with that. I don't think it's 100% correct.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah. As of today, I have every variant in the game because my shop is empty as of last night. So I hope to see these at refresh because that would be great. Um, yeah, I'm waiting for some new armor variants. And why doesn't Baron have a variant yet? Oh, it's a nice arrow. Oh, it's an
Yeah, I mean
ultimate.
Barrett has I mean them like on the side, but they just don't ain't none of them active yet.
Yeah. Oh, this means I can actually get this as a mystery variant now because I haven't touched my mystery variants because of that. But yeah, so Arrow, you're gonna get this ultimate variant? Luke?
Probably. I mean,
Yeah.
we'll see. I really like my the one I have now. So
Mm-mm-mm. All right, so these variants are great. You guys definitely check those out. We got some bundles coming out, which we'll start from the top. Got some new bundles. So April 5th to the 25th, we have the Thor bundle, the Thor Frog, which is pretty sick. Comes with 3,000 collector tokens, 7,000 credits, and 155 Thor boosters to get this card nice and to infinity. So this is going to be pretty cool. This is the first of the new boosters, right? Because we're at the end of March. And then, of course, we then have Mr. Fantastic. We have the animals here, Ant-Man and Captain America. I'm assuming to go along with the theme of the April next season's card.
and it's a pretty cool value. I mean, you don't get any credits or tokens or anything, but for $5, you get
Yeah.
3 pretty cool variants, I think, and like avatars and boosters. So like,
Yeah, that's pretty good. And then, of course, we have the Dan Hips, Moon Girl, and Devil Dino. Same thing. It was 29,000 credits. I mean, gold. 2,900 credits. 2,900 gold, not credits. But it's pretty cool. Devil Dino, Moon Girl, and the boosters. Then we have Earth 616 Day for $10. We get this nice Hella variant planting things. We get Groot. And of course, we get some golds and credits. And then we have for 5,000 gold, interesting, Squirrel Girl. Okay.
but look at the tokens. You
Yeah.
get
Wow.
4,500 tokens.
Yeah. Okay.
So
Well, that's
that's
amazing.
what you're
You
really
get a
paying
card.
for.
You get a card that makes tokens, and then you get a bunch of tokens.
Yeah. You
Like
know
it's
what?
very token
That
thematic.
is perfect.
And I know that you love your Token Tuesday, so I will go ahead and give you
Yes.
spoilers. You don't have to scroll all the way down. It goes
Okay.
all the way through like mid-May, and I'm assuming they'll
Awesome.
continue to go. But in the client, they have Token Tuesdays going all the way through like mid-May.
That is
So
amazing.
I'm pretty sure the real upside to Pool 3 cards not being purchasable for token anymore is that they really clearly do not want to trivialize collecting Pool 3 cards. So they felt like they couldn't put tokens in the game for purchase because people would just blaze through Pool 3 instantly. So by removing the ability to do that, they feel like they can give people more tokens for Pool 4, Pool 5 cards. And they
Right.
can let us just buy tokens at a reasonable price at a reasonable rate, which I'm much happier about because it means if I want to buy Jeff the Shark, I can justify it because I won't be missing out on some other cool 6K token card.
Right.
And
No.
it's another thing just to point out too for new players or newer players. It's only goes for 2 of them here. But if you don't have Hela or Thor and you see these bundles and you buy them, you can play with that
You get them.
card.
Yeah.
And you don't have to worry about having the base card. You'll eventually get the base card, but you can go ahead and play with Thor or Hela. So.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, just like they did with Sarah and even Wasp this season.
Mm-hmm.
If you didn't have those cards in Series 3, you brought the bundle or the Battle Pass, you get to play with that card. So we have new data mine cards. These cards are looking to come next season. Next season. We have high. Now this card. Oh, this is the big bad for the new
Guardians movie.
Guardians movie, which is coming out
May.
not in May. So this is probably 2 seasons from now. Then
yes. If you scroll up just a tiny bit right above the balance changes right there, this is the leaked schedule. So you got Kitty Pryde, you got Hitmonkey, Jeff the Baby Shark, Snowguard, Stallion, Nebula, Ironlad, Howard Duck. Yeah.
I got you. So
Nebula is the season pass card that comes out 2 days before the Guardians movie, which she is in. So
right, makes sense. Okay. And Hitmonkey this is April and this is for May. That makes sense. All right. So these are the May cards, which I think is amazing that he's actually in this game and gives the the vanilla cards, right? Actual hidden abilities. So we have Wasp will now on reveal affect 2 random cards with -1. Misty Knight now, when you end a turn with unspent energy, give another friendly card +1 power. Shocker on reveal, give the leftmost card in your hand -1. Cyclops, which finally gets an ability. We all said Cyclops should do something cool. Now, when at the end of the turn, unspent energy, afflict 2 random enemy cards with -1 power, which I think this should have been, hey, destroy any 2 or 1 costs across from you.
There's a theme, Ken. There's a theme.
Yeah, I see. Afflict.
Synergy.
Yeah, I totally get it. The thing. Yeah, go ahead.
It's all about. It's kind of this theme deck of like shrink your enemy's cards, like give them little debuffs, and then reward unspent energy, and kind of synergize by giving you extra energy in some places, rewarding it in others. It's very thematic, very clearly, and I have actually seen a couple of people talking about this with Patriot. These cards have abilities now. You can't play this with Patriot. This is a new deck. This is a new deck. We're playing high. Right. High evolutionary, these 7 cards, and then some other stuff. I'm putting Spider-Woman in this deck, by the way. She's going in, right?
Yeah,
because then that abomination
Hazmat.
costs you nothing.
Yes.
Yeah, I can see Hazmat. Luke Cage stonks going up.
Yeah.
This deck is going to be so toxic.
So I really like this card. I really want to take it away from you a little bit, Ken, for a second.
Please,
so I love this card. I think this is going to be one of my new favorite cards. I am a big fan and been thinking for a long time that they need more build around me cards. And this is like the perfect one because it plays around with cards that we already know, we already have in the game, and gives them a new effect, literally a new effect, a new way to play with them. And I do think that you can play all of them together. They all do synergize, but I do also think that you can also kind of build 2 different decks. If you wanted to go more of the negative power, you can go Spider-Woman, Hazmat, that kind of thing. Or if you wanted to go like the energy cost and you go Sunspot, She-Hulk, Infinite, stuff like that, where you're saving the energy. I did it. So you got to Cyclops, right? So the thing I think is really cool. It's on reveal and affix a random enemy card here. So this location, -1 power, and then repeat it twice more. So basically makes it a 4/9 in that lane, which I think is really cool. And then you have the abomination that is one of the payoffs for that. So it gets 1 less. It costs 1 less energy for each enemy card that is affected with negative power. So can be very quickly a very cheap 9-drop. And then really excited about the Hulk. So the Hulk has an ongoing effect. It gets +2 power for each turn that you ended with unspent energy. So I think that's a really cool, and you could have a really, really big Hulk come down, especially since it's an ongoing. So you can like onslaught or something like that. So I do think that's cool. But yeah, I really like this card. I really like the fact that they found a way to make Cyclops and Hulk and Shocker and all those cards like have a different thing than just like you slot some of them in Patriot sometimes. So
Patriot sometimes.
I'm a big fan of this card. I'm a big fan of this card. I'm a big fan of new archetypes.
So this card starts in your hand. You don't have to play it. These cards
it doesn't start in your hand. It's just like Thanos. It's in your deck. So now it makes all those cards
Other
have
cards.
those abilities.
Perfect.
Yeah, so you never have to draw to play, and a 4/7's fine. Like that's fine
Yeah.
stats.
That's perfect for it.
So yeah.
And then, of course, we have Ironland on reveal. Copy the text of your deck's top card. So that's pretty interesting. If your top card is Devil Dino, for example, this on reveal will copy Devil Dino's ability. And then, of course, when you draw, you now have a second card because Ironland is copying that card's ability, right? That's what I assume here.
Yeah, you get the whole effect, and I saw Kyle and them talking about it earlier, and he brought up Galactus. I think that's kind of funny that you could
Yeah.
totally Galactus and the draw Galactus.
That's true.
But yeah, I think there's a lot of interesting things you can do, and I think one of them is Howard the Duck. If you can do Howard the Duck shenanigans
Yeah.
with it, they're
See what your top card
best
is and
friends.
play it. Yeah, these two together will be perfect. So Howard the Duck, ongoing, tap this to see the top card of your deck, which is pretty cool. Got to play with armor, of course, protect it, and then you can always go through and take a look and see what your top card is. We're going to see a lot of rogues in play, I'm sure. A lot of enchantresses to kind of take this or stop this from happening.
Yeah,
it's
and
pretty good.
I really like Howard the Duck as in general as a card.
Right.
Just because being able to see what you're going to draw next turn gives you an extra little bit of information that your
Right.
opponent doesn't have. So, I mean, just to think about it on turn 5, knowing what you're going to draw on turn 6 when you're
No,
trying
it's
to make
pretty
your
sick.
turn 5 play. Yeah.
It's pretty good too when you were playing on turn 3. You get to see what's going on, and on turn 4 you can play Jubilee.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, big fan of these cards. What do you think, Ridiculous?
Iron Lad and Howard look fun together. I do not know if they'll be good because
Yeah.
how often are we playing Iron Lad off curve? How often are we saying, I don't like the top card, I'm going to wait a turn? Because you're kind of stuck with him on turn 4 most of the time. Though you could do Zabu on 2. And then
Zabu
you start
works.
making decisions about where your 4s are. Yeah, Zabu could be
Yeah,
quite
yeah.
nice. And like, I actually kind of think the Galactus thing is kind of funny. What if you went turn 1 Howard, turn 2 Zabu, turn 3 Shuri, turn 4 Iron Lad a Galactus? That's a 12 power Galactus. That's big. Like
Yeah.
that could
Yeah,
be
you're
kind of
right.
fun.
That is true. That is very true.
Well, something that I was just thinking about when you were talking about that, I'm trying to think of decks that would fit in that it would really work. I think it could fit in like the Nimrod deck, because if you
Yeah.
hit it and make it a Nimrod, or hit it and make it a Destroyer, or hit it and make it a Wolverine, like there's a lot of things you can hit in that deck, and you're fine with having another copy.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Wow.
You don't want to see Subterranea, and you do not want to play against a Dark Hawk deck
No.
because you just get rock slid, and or Korged, and then you copy a
Korg.
rock.
Yeah. And then we have the battle pass for the next 2 seasons. Nebula, each turn your opponent doesn't play card here, +2 power, except the turn you play this.
So an interesting note with this, just so you know, the leak card that we get for the season pass thing every season, it has Nebula as a 4/6. So everyone is assuming, like, she's been a 1/1 forever, and we all assumed it was a 1/1. I think most people now are assuming that the 1/1 is a placeholder, and the actual art they did for like the season pass with all the
it's
season pass
4/6.
stuff is correct.
Okay.
So another 4-drop to work with Zabu. And I think that effect is very good. I think it's another card that works with what Ridiculous Hat was talking about. I think we see the return of Storm a little bit, because that's a very good 4-drop to play your Storm, because they can't play into it and it's just going to get bigger over the next couple turns.
Yeah, or you could play Negasonic with it too. So that's going to be interesting. And then we have Spider-Man, which is unknown, 2099. And
Spider-Ham, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have their pictures and stuff in the thing, but we don't have stats or effects or anything.
Right. This is going to be amazing. I just need this cassette card back right now.
Have you seen the gold version?
The gold
version's floating around too. There's this gold cassette for the Infinite, and
I
it
need
looks
that.
Oh my
very
goodness.
I need it.
Yes.
That's going to be awesome. Can't wait. All this art looks great. And so I cannot wait to see what happens, especially this season. And then, of course, we have next season. It's going to be some exciting times to see what goes on. Hitmonkey is going to be huge, I think, especially in negative decks or other decks as well. But the fact that we're able to see 2 months out of what's happening It's going to be fun. Those new cards and those abilities is going to be phenomenal in that season. I can't wait to see what happens. The patch is out. Of course, we'll see what happens when we start playing. I'm going to start playing shortly to see if any of these things make sense, if anything's working out well. But how do you guys feel overall? The path of Snap and how it's doing second dinner. What do you guys feel?
I think they're still working through stuff. I think the meta, we'll see how it shakes out. Like, I know I've probably said that a lot, this one, but I do think this is one of those patches that there was a lot changed, a lot of nuance that we may not see yet. And I think we're just going to have to see, because that is something I've been sitting here thinking, listening to y'all talk and stuff, and like thinking about stuff. I do think the Sherry decks are going to get a little worse also with, I mean, you do have a new tool with Negasonic Teenage Warhead, from what RidiculousHat was talking about earlier. I didn't even think about that, of being able to play that into like a Cosmo lane and still blow up their big card that they think that is going to be protected. So, yeah, I think it's going to be interesting. I think they're still on the right path. Like, I know I've seen a lot of hate before this patch. A lot of people like, oh man, they really need to do a good patch. Sack Dinner never do good patches, and I just remember the beta, like 7 months of great patches, almost every patch. So, yeah, I think it's a good change, and we'll see if they need more. I'm just really worried about Leech being okay or not, but like I said, I guess we'll find out.
Yeah. The way they balance people, I mean, people have a lot of opinions in this game, and the way they balance as well, like, people make jokes about changing one power and the meta is fixed, or about them changing too much and deleting decks, and I don't really know what's actually happening. But
Right.
the game has been in global release for 5 months, beta 5 months before that. It's a new game. Glenn Jones, the very visible principal designer, has only been on the team 3 months. They are clearly figuring this out as they go, and trying to balance their massive casual audience that will never do anything outside of the client, combined with their highly engaged audience that will blow up a Discord and Twitter replies if they don't like a particular nerf, or if they don't
Right.
feel that enough was nerfed. So it's hard to say where it's going. I am interested to see where this patch goes. I think it's pretty likely that we see more Shuri than we'd like to see over the next few weeks. But I doubt it will be game destroying or meta warping or whatever. And I have seen a lot of patches in this game where people say they don't know what they're doing when they balance it, and then the game is fun and it's fine. And then after a month, people figure something out, and then it gets boring, and then they change it again, and the game is fine, because that is called having a live service game. So this patch looks to me like it is a live service game. It's going to be different. We will see a bunch of Shuri today, but that doesn't mean that the patch didn't do anything. It just means people are
Right.
playing the decks they had built just to see if they're still good. So I'm curious to see where it goes. I'm going to try and build a deck with Storm and Spider-Man in it after the show and see if I can get some wins with it. But I'm really curious about what smarter people than me figure out.
It's going to be fun. I can't wait to see what happens. I mean, yeah, I agree. I think the game is in a good space. It's going forward again. Shout out to the developers, even listening to anybody, right? Being able to go into the Discord, say what you got to say, and actually responding with us and getting back to us, and doing the best they can, of course, with trying to patch the game and trying to get the balance out there. So I totally agree with that. I can't wait to see what happens going forward. But yes, I can't wait for the new cards. I can't wait to see if something else breaks the meta and what they do about that as well. All right. Anything else you guys want to talk about before we go?
Arrow, please be okay.
Yeah, she will be.
What he said.
I think Arrow will be fine. All right, perfect. So we'll leave links to everybody's socials down below. Thanks again for coming out with RidiculousHat. We appreciate it. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.